Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's February 14th, 2019. We're underway at 7 p.m. Hope everybody's had a good Valentine's Day so far and got your flowers or candy or whatever you might have received. Before we get started on our agenda, I'd like to introduce Emily Kodosky. Emily, stand up. And Emily is with PAC 888. They meet out at Los Reyes Elementary School. And upon her completion of being here tonight, she will earn her Arrow of Light, being the first female scout in Helotes to do that. So that's pretty cool. Next step is Eagle Scout. Cool. So like I said, get with us and we'll help you out on that. And her brother, a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, did the ability swing in the playground for his Eagle Scout project. So they're a good scout family. You betcha. Okay, getting started. We have our invocation tonight. That'll be handled by Councilmember Buys. And we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Let us give thanks for all the blessings, opportunities, and challenges you have given us. Guide us with your strength and wisdom so we can make the right decisions for all the citizens of Helotes. Now that the Texas Senate and House have convened for the 86th legislative session, give our lawmakers the foresight, prudence, and good judgment to enact laws that benefit all the cities and citizens of our great state. We have just received our brand new fire apparatus. Let it be blessed with good luck and a long life of public safety. As always, we ask that you please keep our first responders not only here but all over the country safe while they perform their unselfish duties. For those that are not able to be with their family and loved ones because of military service, we pray for your quick and safe return. May we give our best always and be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up we have citizens to be heard. Anybody, Selena?
No, nobody.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next up on the agenda then is our consent agenda, items 3 and 4. And for you guys that aren't familiar with what the consent agenda is, it's just a grouping of multiple agenda items that the staff and I feel are fairly routine business. And we are looking for one motion and 1 second and 1 vote to approve them. However, if a council member has a question that we can answer fairly quickly, they can ask a question or they can ask to have one of the items pulled to be discussed in more detail later in the agenda. So I'd ask at this time, are there any questions or requests to pull items 3 or 4? Then I would ask for a motion to...
Mayor, I would move that we approve the consent agenda, items 3 and 4.
We have a motion from Meadows. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Fredericks. No discussion required. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 3 and 4, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That takes us to item number 5, which is the discussion of an action on a request by Mexitron LLP for approval of a shade structure for Swiftwater Car Wash down on Bandera Road, 12420. This is right close to Cedar Trail down there between the palms and essentially the wash tub in that area. So we would look for a motion and a second then to open this for discussion and ultimate action.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to discuss and take action on 5.
Have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. Okay, Bert, you're up.
Okay, it looks like what we're looking at here is just the color of the shade that staff recommended for this to be an earth tone instead of blue? Is that was that what we're discussing here?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I don't have a problem with the blue color for a canopy, but I'm really not sure that we can actually regulate color of a canopy like that. I think we can make a suggestion, but can we really regulate the color of the canopy? That's a question that I have. I couldn't see anything in our ordinances that really states that we can do that.
We can make recommendations. I'll let Rick give you a better explanation on that.
The way I can answer that is the design guidelines do talk about color. It says that it discourages bright colors, fluorescent type colors, and it does include the Munsell art wheel or color wheel, which is the scientific study on determining what colors are what and how bright they are. So I think that there is a difference of opinion on how much leeway you would have in regulating color. My opinion on that would be that you can regulate color to a certain extent, particularly if it's garish or not in keeping with the hill country aesthetic. But I'm sure that there are others on this council, which staff will defer to, that have a different opinion.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't have a problem with the blue, but I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say about it. And I'm sure these canopies are water, you know, they're waterproofed and all that, but to me, over time, a beige canopy will start showing mold or whatever else unless they clean it constantly more than a blue color would. And the color, they're showing two colors were circled in our packet. Which are they going to use both colors? One for a trim or something? I'm sorry.
One is for the
Oh, which one's for the columns? The aquatic blue?
Yeah, on the cloth color chart.
I think it said on there.
Okay.
Aquatic
Okay, I'm
blue,
sorry, I
shade
didn't
materials, and the blue
I didn't do my homework on that.
for the steel
But-
columns.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't have a problem with the blue. It's just for a canopy out front. Now, the canopy, the size of the canopy is fine, right?
everything
Is good,
compliant.
except for we're suggesting or saying that make it an earth tone. I would rather, I don't have a problem with blue. That's all I got.
Cynthia, it's your second.
I'm on the same boat that Bert's on. I have no problem with this color of blue. In fact, it matches the sky very well.
Matches the what?
The sky.
Oh, okay.
On a sunny day.
Yeah. And I agree that the beige color will get moldy and ugly looking very quickly. And I just have no problem with this. And I think it actually goes well with all of their other, if this is what it looks like with their little blue and red, it's going to go well. And it's just a canopy. It's, you know, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay. Paul?
I didn't have a problem with the blue either. The only thing that I had a little bit of a concern is you're putting that nice new blue canopy out front, and I think it's kind of a faded teal color in the back. I don't know if that would clash, but as far as I'm concerned, I didn't like the blue. But that's my opinion.
What teal color?
The roof.
The
is kind of
the
a-
roof.
of the building is
Took
kind of
some
a
pictures
teal.
of it and thought it was blue, but this is the second teal I've heard today, so.
It's almost got
It's
a green.
interesting.
It's kind of greenish.
The building and the roof is kind of a blue, but it's kind of a faded
Oh, I see.
tealish blue. So I didn't know if the owner was going to paint it. And,
Oh, I see.
yeah, that's the only thing I had.
Jim?
I don't have any heartburn either way. I have a question from being the latest person involved. When we did KFC, their site plan, we have a bright red shade structure. They're smaller, but they're bright. Did we make any adjustments to them or ask them for adjustments to that red color?
There was some. If you want to know the details, Rick could cover it real quickly.
From my recollection, the structure was proposed originally to be red and white striped, and there was essentially a compromise that if they put the more rock they put, the the accents of the red would be allowed by both the commission and the council, although I think the commission at that time had full authority on approving that matter. But anyway, they increased the amount of rock, and so the commission at that time felt that some red was in keeping with their brand, and so they allowed it on the awnings.
My second question is, on the canopy, do we know what the canter is on it? How much of it is actually visible when you're driving by versus just being a top canopy?
Just from the
Picture I see on there that, with their other site,
yeah, I would think it's probably similar to the ones off of I-10 close to UTSA Drive at those car dealerships.
Right.
It's just a typical, a slight cant to the
Yep.
peak in the middle, so it'll allow water runoff, but it's not a dramatic type
that's
slope.
kind of my point, you're not gonna see a lot of that.
Not really.
No, okay. That's all my questions I have.
Alex?
Well, I'll be alone myself, I'll be on my own here, because I do have a problem with it. And I'll say that I probably aren't going to convince anybody else about it, but I would like to say the reasons why. One, we do have the regulation that says that the color tones in the city should be Hill Country style. We've talked to the AutoZone, we told them they couldn't have a bright red building. We toned it down on the wash tub. We toned it down on a lot of different things, to include the KFC and other areas. And I think that we need to be consistent in saying that the color tones within the city need to be that pattern. I can't tell you how many times we've said, oh, well, it doesn't bother me, we'll let it happen, and then the very next month or 2 or 3 down the road, someone else comes in and says, oh, but you let them have it, you now have to let me have it, and then we have on this podium the statement said, well, yeah, we did, so maybe we should, and then we start to vary away from our requirements. So I think we need to continue with that. With regard to a couple of the other things that were mentioned, and one, if you know where this is located, this canopy is actually in front of the tree line. It is probably going to be the very closest thing to the road that we have within a mile of that. It is, if you look where the vacuum spots are, they are right next to the curb, which is right next to the easement on Bandera Road. So they are going to be absolutely in view of everything. There aren't canopies there right now. But when you put that canopy up there, you're going to be so close to it, you may not see the top of it, but you're definitely going to see the color from underneath because you're going to be driving right by it. I know that because I drive by it every day of the week. That's at the entrance to the neighborhood where I live. So I do believe that we should do that. I don't think that the material that they use is one is going to mold any more than the other. And so I think that that's not necessarily it. I just think we need to be consistent in the way we apply this. Our design standards are clear, saying that the color schemes of the structures need to be of a Hill Country material and not just material, but Hill Country colors, and this violates that. And I think we would be consistent by requiring them to have Hill Country colors. Earth tones is the way planning and zoning recommended it, not necessarily calling it a very specific color. And if you had a chance to listen to their meeting, they went away specifically from calling it tan or even calling it specific to the color palette that was provided in their packet by saying earth tones. That allows them a variety. I also agree that the building that's behind it does have a very faded version of blue, whatever you want to call it, teal or blue or whatever, but it's very faded. It's not near as bright as what this is proposed to be. Thank you.
Bert, back to you.
I still have it in my mind that I'm not real sure what Alex is saying is true, that we can regulate colors that much. I mean, you say, okay, it's supposed to be Hill Country colors. What are Hill Country colors? Have we ever stipulated what they are? I mean, I don't see that we can actually really regulate the colors. We can make suggestions, in my mind, but I don't know if we really have the ability to really regulate the colors.
But we've
done it
with the examples I gave you.
I believe with AutoZone, you asked him to do that. You brought the.
Yeah, let's just address your comments to the
Well, he asked me.
audience. I know.
Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Cynthia?
Well, I disagree with Bert. I think that we do have the ability to regulate colors. It's as what Rick had mentioned. And the only problem we've had is where we've really deviated is when we have these companies coming in like Kentucky Fried Chicken that have red in there. Red is not a Hill Country color. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it isn't. But we allowed it because it's part of their brand. And we did kind of tone it down. We did what we could to tone it down so that it wasn't so garish. Once we let that happen, I think we did open the door. But what else can you do when it's a business and that's their brand and that's the color of their logo and that kind of thing? I mean, there's a lot of things that we've done in that regard to help these businesses. So, with all that said, I'm looking at the color chart, and I'm thinking desert sand looks pretty nice. I think that would look. It's not tan and it's not beige. It's got some texture, and I had not realized how close it was to the street. So I agree with Councilmember Blue that it's going to be kind of there, like right in front of you. And so I think if we can suggest desert sand, I think that's a nice alternative, and it is a Hill Country color. So I'm kind of swayed by what Councilmember Blue said. So that's going to be my suggestion.
Did y'all see this email
Yes.
from the owner? Saying that they have about 15 operating Swiftwater locations, and they all have that brand of a blue canopy out front, just so you'll have this. Okay, Paul?
I think, like Councilman Mass said, I think colors are associated with brand, and I think these people are trying to be consistent across their whole operation with that one color. And to deny them that color, you kind of sway them from their brand and the look that they're trying to achieve. So I'm still, I think, okay with the blue color. Not wanting to regulate the color for these guys.
Okay, that it?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Thanks. Having heard everybody, when I said I was not unhappy with going with their blue, I'm neither happy nor unhappy. The idea of that we have made precedent sets in the past and required people to tone things down, I'm appreciative of, and that's one of the things that I'd like to see that we make sure we continue. But I am swayed by the idea that with 15 locations, that they really have a brand. It may not be a national brand like a KFC, but it's as much of a brand as Wash Tub is, as far as, and we've allowed them to have significant, not a total amount of red. Is that correct, or that their wash tubs have a significant amount of red in them?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. If we were calling the question, I would vote in favor of the blue.
Okay. Alex, anything else?
Further, thank you.
Okay. Bert, any follow-up?
No.
Anybody?
I have just one
Okay.
follow-up remark. If the color, we said, if the natural brand color was like a hot pink or a garish green, fluorescent, would you think differently? And so this is what I'm talking about. We have to be very concerned about these color schemes because that could come up. It could be a hot pink.
It could
a
be.
flamingo
Yeah.
pink, and that's their brand. So
If I can just add one thing, might help you. The page before this little circly or the Munsell color system, it says concerning two things that I picked up on. Color, it says the color of an awning or canopy should be compatible with the overall color scheme for the project. And then down below it says under bright colors, extremely bright or fluorescent exterior colors are discouraged. Bright colors should be used in small amounts and for accent only. That's just a guideline. It doesn't really dictate the colors.
Where are you reading that from, sir?
That's the page before that Munsell chart, and you don't have it in your packet. We should have put it in there probably since we included the Munsell chart. And the way I'm reading the Munsell chart, the blue falls within the realm. It says an extremely bright or fluorescent color is a color defined by the Munsell chart of colors as having a minimum value of 8 and a minimum chrome of 10. And it's very difficult to interpret what that little chart means, but that's just a little more input. Did you have anything else, Cynthia?
No.
Paul, any follow-up to Cynthia's comments?
No, sir.
Jim, anything else? Alex, no?
Yes, actually. I do consider that color blue as bright. It is not at all anything what I would consider less than bright. And the structure size is 1,100 square feet, which is not, in my opinion, a slight amount of very bright colored blue.
Okay. Well, that's 3 rounds, and I think we have enough to have a vote unless anybody has anything else to add. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving the blues color scheme, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
No.
Okay, the blue passes with 3 ayes and 2 nays, which would be Massey and Blue. Okay, item number 6. This is discussion of and action on a request by Abizo Helotes Crossing LP for approval of a conceptual design plan for the Helotes Crossing Shopping Center located at 12423 Bandera Road, and that's the track that is just between Walmart and Babes. So I'd look for a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we discuss, take action on 6.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who seconded it? Alex?
Alex.
Gotta flip a coin.
You beat her.
Okay.
I heard you out of my right ear.
That a good ear?
Yeah. And you should have this revised rendering that just for simplicity, the owner and developer, and this is the same developer that developed the Helotes Trails right across Bandera Road where Federal Navy Credit Union is. But he did go ahead and add the wainscot, and he added the additional rock on his columns. So, with that being said, Bert, you're first up.
Well, he is, I mean, everything else is compliant, and now he's went ahead and done the things that the P and Z's recommended, is that correct?
Yeah, and he also, there's a new sign layout. We recommended to him that he consider changing the address from the bottom to allow for some landscaping. So he now has the address vertically on the left-hand side of the sign. To us, it looks fine, but that's up to you.
I know this isn't on the agenda item itself, but it looks like he's compliant with everything, but he's gonna have to come back for a variance for that drive-through, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that still needs to come to us?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't see a problem with this. I think it's a well-designed deal. The only thing I had a little question about, and you can call it whatever you want, but to me, it's gonna be confusing calling this property Helotes Crossing when you have a Helotes Crossing subdivision just right down the road.
Well, he added the shopping center. After
Oh, he
our
did?
pre-development meeting, it's actually Helotes Crossing
Shopping center? Okay, I thought, I didn't see that on the sign.
Yeah, it's
just
not,
says-
but the official name is Helotes Crossing, and then he's got his
Okay.
address there.
Well, I mean, he could name it what he wants, but I just thought it would be a little confusing. But, no, I think it's all good. And I'd like to thank him for taking those items that P and Z recommended under consideration.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's all a good design as well. I had a question, though, and I was trying to look at it on the design here. It does not look as if this particular lot will have a driveway access onto Bandera Road, but the entrance will be through the driveway cut that is right at the end of the Babes Restaurant.
Correct, and that was part of the planning, I think, of that original shopping center.
But my other question was, is there going to be another driveway access to the backside of that building behind the Babes?
No.
Okay, so they're not gonna have access for trucks or anything to deliver anything, or
Well, I think the trucks will come in and.
they'll have to come,
go
they'll have to
around-
squeeze
go
through the
around,
front
yeah,
then? Okay.
yeah.
Clearly, that lot has a great number of trees on it, and I'm guessing that our staff will work very carefully with them about the tree ordinance, and they're gonna have to cut a lot of them down, I know.
Yeah, we already have,
They'll work-
what we're worried about now is whether or not there's gonna be fee in lieu of, or they're required to do a detention pond. We've encouraged the engineers to respect the trees and figure a way to do fee in lieu of, so that's what we're working on now.
Is there any way, and I'm not sure there is a legal way to do so, but to discuss with the Walmart the fact that their detention pond is right next door? Maybe they would be able to allow some to go that direction?
They will not work.
They won't,
together.
okay.
There's a long history there, and they will not work together.
Okay. And I would say that I do like their choice of Hill Country colors.
I knew you would.
Thank you.
If you want to feel them, Selena left some swatches here.
Very nice.
So if you want to
Colors.
actually touch the colors, you can.
Fair enough.
That's kind of weird.
Jim, anything?
I didn't have a question until you mentioned the change in the name. It's not put up on any of their signage or any of the elevations that they've shown in their drawings. Before they go final, I would hope they're gonna put that on their elevations, rather than just, we're gonna assume that they're gonna call it the shopping center.
Well, there's Helotes Crossing office building across the street,
Right,
so it's just three's a charm.
okay.
So
I mean, what they volunteered it, that they were gonna include that, so I just would note that, but no, I have no questions.
okay. I was just going by this down here.
Right.
On
But
the deal.
on the rendering side, it's not.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know that they'd have enough room and still be able to get it all in there, but
That's
we
my
can
question.
mention that to them. Okay, Cynthia?
Can I just say, isn't this better than a gas station?
Yes.
I'm very
If
happy.
if they would sell gas, it would be nice at a
Okay.
discount.
I'm just really pleased that we managed to stop the gas
You,
station.
you
and
just
get-
are glad to see a Dunkin' Donuts there.
Well, that's true, okay. And I do like their coffee as well. No, I think that there's not enough room to put shopping center. I'm not sure what, and the other thing too is if they rent any of these out to like a professional person, like a lawyer or whatever, wouldn't then really be a shopping center, would it? So, I don't know, but you're right, there's 3 Helotes crossings now.
Yeah.
So, that is a little confusing, but I don't know what to do about it, but I like the building and I'm glad
I
they're
don't
putting
think
it
there's
through.
any, this is one part that I would say I don't think you have any control in.
Wait a minute. Oh,
No, that's it, thank you.
Paul?
No, I think it's an attractive development. I like that they kind of took the P and Z recommendations and incorporated those, so appreciate that.
Bert, any follow-up?
no, sir.
Alex?
No, sir.
Jim?
Just, Bert, would you mind amending your motion that would say that it is per the P and Z recommendations?
Oh, do I need to do that?
I don't think so, but
harm, no
you
foul.
can.
Well, the one
We'll-
thing that was in there was the 25%
already-
additional,
He's
The what?
already- He's already agreed to everything.
the wording.
The what?
The wording on the sign, master sign plan about the 25%.
What about it?
Has that been incorporated in the document already, or?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's on the actual, plan sheet.
Yeah, and we suggested that to them during the pre-development meeting because Gome Village down there, Gome and 1560 had that in there. And it kind of helps any tenant who does want to ask for a variance, it's already in the master sign plan. Otherwise, technically, they wouldn't be able to ask for a variance because they have to follow the master sign plan. But since that's in the master sign plan, which we're calling, I'm assuming part of signage is the way I interpreted it, the master sign plan will fall into approving the signage, which would be the monument sign. So we might as well just have one vote on this, but in that vote is going to be approving the conceptual site plan, the overall building design, the exterior lighting, which is following the recommendation of staff and P and Z to be full cutoff, and then the landscaping around the monument sign, as well as the monument sign and the master sign plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, so we'll call the question then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, next up, we have item number 7, presentation by city staff and discussion of and action on a resolution of the City Council of the City of Helotes to give approval to submit the grant application to the State Homeland Security Project Grant Program for the Old Town Helotes Special District Security Bollards Public Address System and Safety Surveillance Project. I think we'll go ahead and get a motion in a second before we do the presentation, and then we can go right into discussion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we discuss and take action on item 7.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second from Meadows. And Josh, you're up for this, right?
No,
Oh, Susan? Okay, good. Sorry, you just kind of snuck up there.
2 months in a row.
I would like to, before they get started, acknowledge Josh and our Public Works Department. They were in New Braunfels yesterday and received their award for the in-house Public Works project for the walking trail. Do you have your plaque? Did you get it? Well, let's show it off. And this was just.
Ooh, can we touch it?
Just tell them real quick again, it's Texas Public Works Association, and you submitted this as an in-house public works project, which was a walking trail, which we did all by ourselves, and people use it every day, and so they got this plaque officially yesterday.
Yeah, so it's through the Texas Public Works Association, which is our state chapter for the American Public Works Association, in which the City of Helotes is a member organization of. And we have a yearly conference, and they have in-house project of the year submittals. This one was qualified under the structures and parks portion of that. They have 5 in-house projects of the year, ranging from technology to streets and different things like that. So part of the submittal was to show a benefit to the community and also show how we were able to do it cost effectively and not burden the community by doing that. So we put together a proposal, submitted it, and we won. So I don't know how many submittals there were, but
Had to be thousands,
let's just say thousands. Yeah.
probably thousands.
And to my recollection, is since I've been here, it's the first state level award that the Public Works Department has received.
Cool, we'll find a place. Unless you want to hang it in your office, we'll find a place here. I don't know that we'll put a spotlight on it necessarily, but we'll find a
lighting.
prominent place so people will know. Okay, Susan, so you're up.
Okay, well, good evening.
Please tell us all who you are for the record.
My name is Susan Darst. I am the assistant to the city administrator for the city of Helotes. I am
And pull the
present.
microphone down there close to you if you would, so we can hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I won't interrupt you again. Hopefully.
No, I encourage questions. So the presentation is the city's application for the Homeland Security Grants Division 2018 State Homeland Security Program. The objective of the grant is intended to support investments and to improve the ability of jurisdictions to prevent a threatened or actual act of terrorism and our protected citizens, residents, visitors, and assets against the greatest threats and hazards. So as we go through this presentation, I just want to keep in mind that this is written, obviously, to present to council, but also to the several different agencies that will approve and prioritize the grants that are submitted to REPAC, which is the Regional Emergency Preparedness Action Committee.
Sounds good.
Yes. So, and again, this is all in context of mitigating terrorist activities. We start the presentation off with some background of the city of Helotes. Currently, 9,169 residents, daytime population of 40,478, expected Northwest Bexar County population growth of 68% by the year 2050, and that comes from TxDOT. So in putting together the grant, we identified that our biggest area of opportunity or our capability gap is our city events. So just a few of our overall events, our marketplace, we estimate 24,000 visitors, Jazz Around 5,000 visitors, Carnival, 20,000, and the lighted Christmas parade at 3,000. Again, as part of the grant, this is tied to terrorist activity, so we identified 4 major terrorist threats. The first being vehicular. There are 7 vehicular access points in the district where large crowds gather during community events. Potential terrorist threats include vehicles bypassing traditional street barricades and cones and hitting pedestrians in the rights of way. We also highlighted, and I won't read it off the screen, but highlighted some very well-known incidents where vehicles purposely were used in terroristic activities towards groups of gathered individuals similar to what we have in the city of Helotes. Another identified threat and hazard is active shooter. Again, the district frequently hosts several thousand visitors at each of the city's reoccurring events. Potential terroristic threats includes offenders armed with firearms or other types of weapons directed at large crowds within the district. The FBI has identified 50 active shooter incidents between the years 2016 and 2017, 6 of which happened in the state of Texas. Over 941 total casualties were a result of those events. Another identified threat and hazards, bomb threats. Our area houses several warehouses, public elementary, private kindergarten, 2 large churches, all within an approximate 1-mile area. There's a potential for terroristic bomb threats impacting high-density crowds congregating within our community. Another is utility threats. Gray Forest Utilities, a natural gas utility company located very close to our district, where there's a number of natural gas, electric, and other utility lines that could be a potential terrorist target. So taking all of those things into consideration, we developed a project goal that would primarily prevent vehicles from driving into crowded event areas by establishing a physical barrier to traffic, protecting visitors through enhanced surveillance, and mitigating, and with those tools, mitigating loss of life, asset, and property damage in our Old Town area. Project implementation, to purchase and install crash-rated bollards at multiple locations throughout Old Town. In addition, install a public address system in the Old Town area to be able to improve crowd communications, and purchase and utilize a mobile security surveillance tower to increase situational and visual awareness during large-scale events. Now, when we created this plan, we have, it's a big plan. The Homeland Security Grant, their total funding is a little over $2 million. So once we calculated our total scope, we realized that we would be asking for a large portion of that grant amount. So we thought it feasible to break our project up into 5 phases. We didn't want to be selfish. We didn't want to ask for all the money. So our plan of attack is really a prioritized 5-year plan. So phase 1 would be to install 32 crash-rated bollards at the traffic circle at Old Town and Old Bandera Road near Fleur Drive. Josh, you can speak to what we're achieving in that. He's going to help me out now. So what we did is we took the area that we used the most and chose that phase 1 for the bollard installation and for the installation of the PA system. And here you can see location 1, you can do the pointer.
Okay, so what we did was try to prioritize it based upon importance of event, and the way we figured importance of event was frequency. So obviously we wanted to first protect our market day pedestrians and vendors was our priority. So we have locations 1, 2, and 3. Each one of those locations, 1 and 2 being on either side of the traffic circle. Location 3 would be down close to Fleur Drive. That would give us the ability to, under phase 1, stop the primary flow of potential traffic into the market day event. Obviously, that's where you're going to get the highest rate of speed potentially would be Old Bandera Road, Riggs Road, or Old Bandera Road from El Chaparral side. So then we go on to phase 2, where we're still dealing with Market Day as our primary event, because we haven't fully protected that section. Here we got 29 crash-rated bollards at Riggs Road and Old Bandera Road, with a potential cost of $187,000. And what we got here is locations 4, 5, and 6. So 4 and 5 would be primarily to protect the pedestrians and vendors towards the wooded area of the shops at Old Town, and location 6 would be to protect people from accessing the event through the city leased parking lot. After phase 2, we would completely then be able to protect, to the best of our ability, any vehicles from entering into the Market Day event. Keep in mind, we did calculate the distances of the right-of-way down there. We did some research as to spacing of bollards, so that's how these numbers are coming up, based upon the width of the right-of-way and location of bollard spacing, not to allow any even small vehicles to get through there. So that's how we came up with the numbers. Phase 3, it kind of shifts from the Market Day to protecting the Jazz Festival. This would require 34 bollards, locations 7, 8, and 9 at a potential cost of $219,000. If you look here, we got a little layout of where we typically block off for Jazz Festival. So you got locations 7, 8, and 9. This phase right here would allow us to fully protect the Jazz Festival from a vehicle potentially entering into that event. Phase 4 would be 30 crash-tested bollards, locations 10, 11, and 12 at about $193,000. This would start to elongate the plan to where we could start protecting people who are participating in the parades. Now that we protected Market Day and the Jazz Festival, we'll go ahead and start looking at locations 10, 11, and 12. Location 10 is also around the traffic circle. It'll give us the ability to allow traffic to travel down Old Bandera Road during the Cornwall Parade while not being able to be accessed by a potential vehicle from Riggs Road. The location 11 would be there at Floor Drive, where it enters into Old Town. That location could also be potentially a bonus to protecting for Market Day. And then we got a location 12, which is where Scenic Loop dead ends into Old Town. The 5th and final location, or phase, would be the remaining 22 bollards it would take to protect Old Bandera Road at the intersection of Antonio Drive and then at the very end close to El Chaparral. Here is $142,000 to complete the last 22 bollards, and then this is where we included the Skywatch portion of the project. And the last 2 locations, as we talked about, 13 and 14, one of them is at Antonio Drive and Old Bandera Road to prevent people from accessing Old Bandera Road from Antonio and protect people from entering from the El Chaparral location. And this would give us the ability to protect all the pedestrians in our historical district from either the Cornwall Parade or the Christmas Parade for lineup, and then the remainder of the events down there. And it would also be deployable at our need for any city event that we do wind up having down there, or any event that we deem necessary.
So total project cost with the 5 phases is $1,129,000. And a little bit of information about the bollards is they're a manual retractable, so they'll actually be installed within the roadways. They'll be locked. They'll be able to be pulled up by event staff prior to events and then locked in place.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd just like to remind council that during the budget process, Rick had included in the budget some money for bollards for mainly the marketplace area. And then while we were looking into the different types of bollards, this grant came about. And so we decided we'd try this first. And the purpose of this thing after the presentation is to approve the resolution which is required for the grant submittal. So that's where we're at. Jim, you have any questions for Susan?
Two quickies. One, did we explore, Josh, the alternative of the new modern Jersey barriers, the ones that you put in place with a forklift and take away? Is that even feasible?
We talked about that probably for the last couple of years. The biggest issue we see with that would be logistically installing before and after the event, filling with water, hauling them to and from, and then storage. Either we could try to find somewhere to store it in our historical district. It's already pretty crowded. We already have quite a bit of stuff stored down there. And then mobility, just if we wound up storing them here at one of our buildings or one of our shops, getting them to and from would be logistically challenging for us. So we're really looking for something that was more of a permanent fixture for our sake, for the city's sake, I guess for, ease of use would probably be the primary factor on that.
And my second question was, when you say they're telescoping, they would disappear into the ground totally?
Yes,
When
sir.
they're down? Okay. That's it.
Yeah, the other thing about those water-filled barriers, as Josh says, we've looked at all kinds, and most of them, depending on the size, would weigh full anywhere from 600 pounds to 1,000 or more.
No, I was thinking even worse. I was wondering about the new modern Jersey barriers that are like 18 to 24 inches high, that are along the sides of the road on our
Oh, yeah,
Hasman
oh, yeah,
project.
those are, I forget, but they're thousands of pounds, yeah.
Okay.
Alex, any questions?
Yes, I did have one question. One, the telescoping part was my first question. So how far apart was the proposal? You said that you had measured and looked at easements and all that, and I'm just curious what the opening would be in particular, because I know that sometimes it's not just a vehicle you're trying to protect against, but other things maybe, or possibly even allowing maybe a golf cart or something to go in between. So I was just curious what the separation between them would be.
So these would not be able to stop a golf cart. There'll be 4 feet between each baller, which is narrow enough to stop any, a DOT-approved vehicle for the roadway. And as far as the installation, these ballers are more built as a unit. It's the ones we're looking at. They do sell some that are individual, but the ones we're looking at are more of a unit. So they wouldn't install more than a minimum of 3 in one setting, because the structure that goes underneath the pavement surface is concrete and rebarred, and they're all kind of sort of tied together. And what gives the line of bollards to speak their strength is the ability to be tied together, and they add to the stopping force more as a unit than singular. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Bert?
Okay. These bollards that you're talking about, Jim was talking about putting up those water-filled ones or whatever you were talking about.
His were concrete.
My concern with using something like that, or even the bollards, is what if we need to get an ambulance in there? Yeah, I know it's crowded, but there will be a time, if we have something like this, let's say a bomb or an active shooter, when we might have to get an ambulance into the site. And now, are these bollards able to be unlocked and put down by just anybody, or how does it work?
They would be locked. Our staff would have access to those keys, and then they can be retracted.
So they are under lock and key then?
Yes.
And the first responders would have a key.
Okay.
Just like a
Okay.
knock box.
A Knox box key. Okay, that's good. That'll work great. And then also the public address system, is it? Is it wireless?
No, it's wired.
It's wired.
Or no, excuse me, I'm wrong. It's wireless.
We're looking at both.
Yes.
And the public address system was one of the first things that we were looking at, because there's nowhere in Marketplace or other big events to, if bad weather is coming, tornado or something, that we can let everyone know at one time, similar to what you all have at the festival grounds.
Right, because we're looking at a wireless, we have a public address system at
Right.
the Carnival
Right.
grounds, but we're looking at a wireless system, and they're quite expensive. But what happens is, if you do put in a wireless system and it does cover the whole park, it'll help with your insurance. Now, I don't know what it'll do with the city as far as, TML and all that, but with us, it is gonna help us with our insurance when we decide to do it, because it is quite expensive. We've already checked into it.
The other thing we're looking at with wireless is the receiver and the boosters or whatever, if there's a long way to go. Because we're looking at Riggs Road from the elementary school area all the way down to Flora Drive. So
Yeah.
that's what the
Okay.
challenge that we have.
Okay.
Anyway, we're looking at that, and it's part of the grant.
Who was the one that found the grant? Who found this grant? Was that you, Rick, or whoever did that? Good job.
I read about it. I don't know, did I send it to you guys, or
Well, whoever did, good job.
somehow? It's a team effort.
Okay.
Paul?
Yeah, congratulations on it. I guess when y'all go to install the bollards, do they have to, I guess, tear up the road quite a bit?
Yeah.
Big hole?
They're substantial
Yeah,
installation.
it would be similar to what you would see from a bridge abutment to asphalt. So you'd have a concrete structure with two expansion joints on either side to allow the asphalt to move independently, sort of from the concrete. But yeah, we would definitely have to cut a trench about 4 feet wide and probably about 4 feet deep and build that substructure down in there.
But we're not talking about redoing the entire road. We would be cutting the asphalt.
Just in that area. Just cut the asphalt and.
You just cut that section of the street?
Yeah.
Yeah, you really wouldn't be doing any work to the road at all. You would just be taking out a section of asphalt and filling that void,
Please just already
asphalt and
repave it
aggregate.
After the
So would
installation.
the top be concrete? It's all concrete, so instead of you go asphalt, concrete barrier, asphalt on the other side?
The type of bollard they're looking at, yeah, it's pretty massive.
Okay.
Anything else? Cynthia?
I just have two comments. One, it has to do with the water and sewer line. I'm assuming that y'all are gonna be y'all looked at all that before you decide the placement of these things, because we don't want it to, because, I mean, I know the water and sewer line go this way mostly, but does it go across at all in the street?
It does, but it would be, those would be below the depth
Yeah.
that we would be excavating.
Yeah, those are much deeper.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. The other thing is this mobile skywatch, or this mobile surveillance tower. What exactly does that mean? Is it movable? I mean, is it gonna be there the whole time?
It is. It's a movable platform that elevates, that allows two people in a temperature-controlled environment to survey a large area because of the height. An advantage for us with the grant is that the REPAC committee that prioritizes these, they love anything that is shareable and deployable. So anything that we would be willing to share through our mutual aid, or anything that we can deploy in the state of emergency and somewhere else in Texas, they look very favorably on.
So where would it be kept on those occasions when we're not gonna need it? And first of all, so then, it's not gonna, it could be on someone's property if we get their permission to put it on there, or?
This is
We were
something
hoping
that
to use your backyard.
No, this would be something that would be stored here in the
Yes.
municipal complex.
Yes.
And then it would be put up at where exactly would it be put up?
Well, depending upon our event, so for market days, probably somewhere around the circle, for jazz, it depends upon the event. So somewhere central to maximize the surveillance area.
Okay.
But at the conclusion of the event, it would be
So
taken down and,
it's compactable and movable?
yes, it's on a trailer, and so it raises and lowers.
It's towable behind a pickup truck.
Yes.
And we're even thinking of events at the Carnival, at the festival grounds, we could loan it out, and then other agencies also, as Susan was saying.
Yes.
That's a big plus, as she mentioned, is having it be available for Bear County and other agencies to be able to use if we're not using it.
Okay.
Which
Thank
phase
you.
is that in?
That's currently in phase 5.
Thank you.
Anything else, Cynthia?
No.
Jim, any follow-up? Alex?
I guess my only question is, I like the idea of this surveillance bid, and I was wondering why it was relegated to phase 5, and if we keep going back and back and back and back for phase 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, are they gonna get tired of us and we're never gonna get phase 5? Or should we maybe bump it up in priority a little bit higher than phase 5 to make sure we actually secure that? Or truly are all those bollards that much more important than this particular one? I don't know.
My personal opinion, of course, council can direct us differently, but the bollards are a priority as well as the PA system, because we're constantly concerned about vehicles entering into these events where we just have temporary barricades and cones.
Whether intentional or unintentional.
I mean,
Yeah.
it most likely would be unintentional in the future, but who knows? But I would prioritize, just from having been out there and seeing the vehicles that go around Marketplace, particularly the bollards over the surveillance tower.
And if I can add to that, the pictures that are in this slide were taken either by me or Mr. Stepanski, and I cropped them. But in this picture, there is a car 4 feet away from the woman in the center. Same thing with this picture. In this picture, there is a Jeep that is right about the middle of the circle. I mean, traffic gets very, very close to visitors and patrons of these events. So that's where we came up with phase one as priority one.
No, I didn't question phase 1 and 2. I was thinking by the time you get to phase 4, those bollards are well down the list, and whether or not maybe the PA, I don't know, where was PA system in?
It's phase one.
It
Well,
was
the
phase-
PA
okay,
system-
Okay, I was, wanna
Yeah,
make
the
sure that
PA
was-
system was,
Okay.
in our minds, pretty important.
Yes.
The other thing that I think affected in the decision, and Susan and Josh and Rick can let me know if I'm wrong on this, but we met with some folks from ACOG, and they said that the available funds this round are 1.6 or 7 million for multiple projects. Over 20 projects, I think, are being submitted. And they said, so if you're asking for too much, you're probably not gonna get it all. So that's why, like Rick said, we decided the bollards and the PA system was most important now, if we can get that funding, and then we'll worry about the rest in subsequent years.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure the PA system was much earlier than it
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it is an annual grant
Yeah.
process. So many, like Bear County, they come back every year for their CERT team to get additional $50,000 to $100,000. So this isn't unusual for entities to come back every year, particularly on a phased type plan.
Good, thank you.
Bert, any follow-up? Paul?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay, then thanks, Susan, good job. The action part of this, again, is to approve the resolution to allow us to submit the grant application. So if there's no other discussion or questions, I would call the question, and a yes vote would be to approve the resolution. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and the resolution is approved. And, well, I did something with my agenda, but that should be it. Emily, just want to congratulate you. The meeting is complete, so I guess this makes you an arrow of light, correct? Cool.
Awesome.
Any questions you have? Hey, you got this full council right here. This wealth of knowledge about city government is here and available for you. So just let us know. Okay, if there are no objections to adjourning, we will adjourn, and it is 7-something. Where's my,
7:58.
what is it? 7:58.